there's that issue of how far are we supposed to put these away from our?
They're supposed to be really close.
Is that what this says?
Yeah.
They got no heads on.
Let's be all good clear.
Absolutely. I see it's on the agenda. I don't have any comments for it, so I guess.
We are on the air, and we are calling the meeting to order. This is actually, what is today's date?
January
16th.
January 16th. I just lost my agenda. The January 16th meeting. I actually have it here, but we'll call. Can we stand and take the pledge? I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Vicki, can we take roll call?
Commissioner Armstrong,
Here.
Commissioner Bowley,
Here.
Commissioner Craig is absent, Commissioner Davis is absent, Commissioner Diaz,
Here.
Commissioner Goodman,
Here.
Vice Chair Navarro, Commissioner Pace.
Here.
And Chair Young.
Here. For today's meeting, I'm going to ask that we move just a little bit slower and that as we're speaking, we turn on our mic, and if we're not speaking, we need to turn our mics off. We've had some issues with the ability to record minutes. Also, keeping your mic really, really close to you will help, and that'll help us move forward. Vicki, have we had a posting of the agenda?
The agenda was posted for today's meeting at City Hall, the city's website, and at the Leisure Center by 5 p.m. last Thursday, January the 11th, as required by established policies and procedures.
Thank you. We still have outstanding minutes from November 21st, and we're not going to be able to approve them today. We are still checking on one action on those minutes, so we will be looking at those at the next meeting. But for the December 19th minutes, has everybody had a chance to review them? Are there any issues? May we have a motion? Oh, an issue? Okay.
Okay,
So I was confused by quite a few of them as far as the paragraphs, but one that jumped out at me, and I'm just asking for some clarification, and that is minutes page 4, third paragraph. And the first sentence says, Commissioner Goodman mentioned a meeting that representative of Arts Commission and Parks and Recreation met with the architect of the downtown park. And then it says there was some discussion of having a joint meeting of the two commissions. And so I don't have any memory of an actual meeting between two representatives of those commissions and the architect. So I'm not
Okay.
sure how that.
I think that was a discussion that would be, it was a suggestion that happened,
Okay.
but that it did not happen yet.
Okay.
Okay, thank you. So that's a correction.
Well, see, that's why, it was really hard for me with the tape, and there were several who talked loud enough I could understand what you were saying, and the others I got nothing other than a word here and there. And so without having notes myself, I take notes, and then I use the tape as my backup, but I had no notes, so going back and forth, the replaying and stopping, I could have just meant, so it was, okay, suggested a meeting. And something I didn't get is, I don't know who made the motion or seconded. This would have been from the November meeting, so we need to go back and review that as well. Okay, okay.
It's the November meeting that we were unsure of the approval of the minutes.
Okay.
Commissioner Diaz?
No, go ahead. Go ahead.
I was just trying to turn the thing on. It was just that we had said last time we couldn't do that because you were not present. And that's what the discussion was. That's why we didn't do the November ones.
Right, I'm understanding, but we'd actually had a conversation this week, and I don't think she understood either that what we're looking for is go back to the tape for the meeting of the 21st and determine who approved them, because one of the people who was listed as the approver was actually absent.
Not even
that
there.
time.
Okay.
Right,
Yeah.
yeah.
So we'll
Gotcha.
still be able to work on that going forward.
And as I said, my apologies, because I was like, it was frustrating to try and listen. Like I apologize to Commissioner Armstrong, because I know he was talking and he talked for a while, and I could hear a word here or there. And then Commissioner Goodman would speak, and it's like, okay, she's agreeing with what Travis had said, but I don't know what he said that you were agreeing with, and then you were expounding upon it. And it's like,
You're lost
Not going
at
to make
that
any
point.
sense. Yeah,
Yeah.
I was lost. So, my apologies.
Hence the reason we're going to make sure that we all speak with the mic on, everybody else's mic off. So we'll work on that today.
So I'll try not to miss any more meetings, so that at least I have some backup notes to.
I think things happen.
Commissioner Goodman?
Just another point, and I can see how it could be really confusing, and that is on minutes page 5, under Commissioner comments. And the third paragraph, my recollection is these are separate issues, and so even though it's in one paragraph, and so where Commissioner Diaz mentioned the pickleball ad hoc committee had met with Commissioner Davis, and then it said, and then she asked who from the district was meeting with the city. They're just separate issues. It wasn't that the city was having a conversation about pickleball.
Okay.
And so I didn't want it to be put together that might be understood that way. So it's just separate.
Okay. And she is going to be Commissioner Diaz. Okay.
Any other corrections or changes? Do we have a motion?
I make a motion to approve the minutes as corrected.
Thank you, Commissioner Diaz. And a second? Commissioner Navarro?
Okay.
All in favor? Aye. Aye. Any opposed? Any abstaining? No. Okay. Is there any correspondence?
We have enough for today.
Thank you. It is time for public comment. We will ask you to come up and sit at this wonderful chair that is looks sort of like it's out of a spaceship. Yeah. This time has been set aside for members of the public to address Parks and Recreation Commission on agenda items and items of general interest within the subject matter jurisdiction of the commission. Although the commission values your comments pursuant to the Brown Act, it can generally not act on or take and respond to any items listed that are not on the posted agenda. Please keep your comments to 3 minutes. Thank you very much. Do we have any speakers? Hi.
Adri Rojas, Palm Springs. Adri Rojas. So anyway, just wanted to come and say that, Les, thank you very much. We had the tournament, and it was a roaring success, and much to the efforts of the Park and Recs department. I mean, the screens coming down, the bleachers being moved in there. It was just, honestly, it was a good time had by all, and we'll do it again next year. But I just really, really appreciated. You were just awesome. So thank you very much.
Dean Mangione, USA Pickleball Association Ambassador for Palm Springs. Commissioners, thank you for letting me speak to you today. I'd like to give you an update on what's happening in pickleball in Palm Springs. DeMuth Park outdoor courts having overflow crowds, over 60 people every day on those 8 courts. We desperately need a fence between the tennis courts and the pickleball courts. I know we've talked about that, but it needs to happen. I have personally moved the whiteboard off the tennis courts and into the front of the bleachers, and I've personally removed everybody's bags off the tennis courts and put them on the fence. I think we've got everybody on board now that no more bags on the tennis courts, no more loitering on the tennis courts, because the players were drifting into the court and it was making it difficult for the tennis players. So I think we've solved that problem. The indoor DeMuth Park gym is going great. We're having at least 20 players a day there. We're giving free lessons every Monday at 8 a.m. James Jesse is doing very well with pickleball from 10 to 1. We get a different crowd who wants to come out a little bit later. We're having between 10 and 12 players every day. And we get a lot of calls from tourists who are coming into town, and I'm directing them there, and they're really enjoying that facility. On February 4th, we're having a round robin at the outdoor courts in Muth Park. Be about 100 players from Southern California. And then on February 17th, I want you to know about the La Quinta grand opening of their new pickleball facility at the Fitzburns Park. The mayor is having a ribbon cutting ceremony with the city council. There'll be cake served, and you're all invited to attend to see how they're doing their pickleball in the city of La Quinta. We've also started a pickleball program at the Indian Wells Tennis Gardens at the request of their members. They reached out to us. We now have 10 courts, 75 players from pros to beginners playing out there every Wednesday night from 5 to 8. Again, I encourage you to come out and see that venue. As you probably know, it's a $77 million facility. It's the fourth largest tennis stadium in the world with 16,000 seats. And the interest in the Indian Wells Tennis Garden was so great, they've agreed to sign a contract to host our USAPA Western Region Tournament in October 26 to 28 of this year. That'll be all of California, all of Hawaii pickleball players. Over 500 players will be coming to the tennis gardens. So that will be a very big event for us. I've been doing local demonstrations for different country clubs and most recently Smoke Tree Ranch, Bighorn Country Club, Toscana Country Club. I recently refereed in December, the Toscana had a black tie welcome back cocktail party and a professional pickleball demonstration with Davis Cup pro Marcin Ropensky and U.S. Open gold medalist Morgan Evans. Courtside was Charlie Passerell, that's Arthur Ashe's playing partner, who is also the founder of Indian Wells Tennis Gardens. He was so impressed with the pickleball demonstration, he has entered discussions with Mr. Ellison in regards to building a separate facility.
But your time
So
is up.
thank you for your interest in pickleball. I hope that you'll come out and see these events and see how we can maybe catch up with the rest of the cities. Thank you.
Marcus, do you want to join us at the table, or are you welcome to? Waiting for David. Oh, okay. Actually, he came in and said he was going to be unable to attend. Oh, okay. So at this time, it would be time for city managers' comments. Unfortunately, Dr. Reddy couldn't join us. He got pulled away to a meeting. I don't know, Marcus, if you had anything that you wanted to address.
Just going to listen in. Are we having this discussion on fees? No.
Well, we're going to have an update, because the committee still has some work to do with a lot of information that Commissioner Pace is trying to compile together. So we'll have a general update on that, and then we'll probably be doing a recommendation that will go forward to City Council at our February meeting for finalization.
Thank you. The first item on our agenda is the discussion regarding retreat, and we're looking for recommendation and to direct staff as appropriate. At this point in time, and I talked to Dr. Reddy about it last week, we have not yet been appointed our representative who will be our liaison from the City Council, nor we currently have 2+1 positions available for commissioners. The +1 is the fact that Commissioner Craig is moving on to Measure J, but he's been asked to remain with us until replaced. Unfortunately, he's out of town today. For the fact that we have 6 people to be interviewed, I would like to ask you if it is tolerable to have us push our retreat off from February to March. I know it's pushing it later and later into our active season, but I think the benefit of having our new commissioners on board, my commitment to you is I will get these interviews done and recommendations done, and we will get it through City Council to be approved so that they could attend, if I can ask for your indulgence there. Commissioner Armstrong?
Yeah, I think that's a great idea. My only concern is if March is realistic with, it's already mid-January. I mean, are we thinking maybe the end of March then?
I'm pretty comfortable we can get it done early. We've got I know that the two council members are very interested in getting this done. It just happened to be that they were leaving for Sacramento, or they probably would have been scheduled this week. We may have to take a hard line with the applicants and choose a date, and they can either make it or can't, because my understanding is one of the people had rejected several dates over multiple periods when there was just two people in the queue. So that tells me that the interest may not be there, or the ability to attend. So with that being said, I would commit to early March as an availability, but I would request a date that is good for everybody in March, because I realize you've got busy schedules, especially on weekends.
So are we discussing like a date?
Commissioner Navarro, are we all in agreement that we can move forward? And then I would say if we could pick a date, I think that would be good. Part of it is probably going to be somewhat upon Commissioner Goodman to be able to locate space for us.
I think it's a great idea to move, especially since one of the agenda items was doing an orientation and, visiting like the Brown Act and other things. So I think that's a great idea. And I guess I have to think to myself, what's the hurry? Like, why would it have to be the 1st of March? It's something we do annually. I don't know if there's really pressing business that has to get done. I don't know. And, maybe it could be the end of March and, really provide more time to, have a selection, getting the date on people's calendars. So I don't know if there's a hurry.
End of March is Easter time and break time for folks, so that might be a bad idea. Maybe earlier in March, but I'm just throwing that out there.
My sense of the urgency is just hoping that we get things on our list that we all agree we want to do, and we get them. This group ends in about 5 or 6 months, believe it or not. It goes very, very quickly. So, my time is up. What month do we do the change in August?
Well, normally the commissioners will do times in normally June 30th would be your time you would either renew or
get out.
Or get out.
So that was part of my
So,
urgency.
July 1 would start with any new commissioners other than those who might be appointed over the next month or two.
Okay.
Commissioner Pace?
The other point is that in April, the city actually starts their budgeting thing. So if there's anything that we want to have done, we need to have it done in March and agreed upon here so that we can present to them early. Because if it's a budget item of any sort or dealing with financials, it needs to be ready by then. So the earlier the better.
So then I have a question. If the new commissioners who are appointed actually don't start till July, are they able to attend a March retreat?
If they get approved by the subcommittee for recommendation, then it goes to city council, and once it gets approved, they would start a meeting. Like, Commissioner Craig was interviewed in December, and his first Measure J commission meeting is this Thursday, so.
Just so you know, Commissioner Goodman, what we're talking about is the next turnover, even after this one. These people that are coming on now are replacing open positions, and actually 3 open positions. So these would be commissioners that would be dropping into the places of people who would expire. Commissioner Craig will expire in 3 years, so one of the people named to his position would be expiring then. The other would be Commissioner
Mr. Ackers, his position.
And the other prior to that?
So then no one's terming off in July?
Well, technically, your 3-year term would come up. You would still have another 3 years in which you could do, but if it was 6 years, then you would have to be off a year before you could come back to the commission.
The other thing that it brings up is around budgets, and I didn't get a sense that in the retreat, decisions would actually be made that would go to the city around budgets. From the notes I took last month on the agenda items or kind of the culture that we are looking to enhance and bring to the commission, didn't include taking items to the city council that might be included. And I don't think one inhibits the other. I think those things can happen independent of a retreat.
I was thinking there would be an opportunity for us to really talk through like the dog park, and if the dog park is going to, the additional dog park or parks are going to create a budget opportunity or a fundraising opportunity, that might be one that would feed in. That was my only thought. I don't know, Commissioner Pace, if you were.
Well, I was thinking in general, you know, it would be also a good time to kind of, if we want to dig into any of these, what these ad hoc committees have done, some of them do want to spend money or they want to change, like mine is fee structure. If a retreat, 5 hours long, it's a good time to really dig into any questions or anything that people might have so that we'd have a clarified time. We can't typically do that in an hour-and-a-half long meeting.
Okay, I'm just taking notes, that's just for clarification, so as we build the agenda, that we're just really clear. When we get to the retreat, we know exactly what we're doing, we know what our outcomes are. So I'll include that.
And I'm doing the same thing, because I'm on with you, because I'm looking at the notes that I took last meeting, because I already started a agenda kind of, and so I'm just adding stuff as well too, but we need to know like as of today, so we could get our ducks in line. Yeah.
Thank you, Commissioner Navarro. Do you have a date that we might be able to take a stab at a Saturday, or do you have a calendar in front of you that?
The two
Commissioner
first
Diaz.
Saturdays are the 3rd and the 10th.
Yeah.
I'm thinking the 10th. Is the 10th anything to do with holidays or?
That day I can.
Okay.
Red dress,
Oh,
What is that?
Commissioner Navarro has an event that night, which actually some of us may be attending. The red dress event is that night.
Yeah.
The 3rd,
That's the 17th. Is that?
17th.
So the third Saturday is the 17th.
St. Patrick's Day.
Everybody can wear green.
Any issues with that?
Wearing green or the date?
Yeah.
Would it work, Vicki, if you did a little research in the city and see if there's any dates or if people could independently just send you an email, not to the whole group, and see if the 17th works for everybody? Or 17th and 3rd? I mean, the first Saturday is the 3rd, and so you're out of town. So on the 3rd, but the 17th works. It works for me. Works for you, Jody? Okay, there you have it. Works for me.
We will hold it for the 17th, and I'm on the string to Commissioner Armstrong, because he's already warned me that it's tight, but we will definitely get that done. Great, moving on, discussion on recreation program fees and recommendations. Commissioner Pace?
Just recently, as of last week, we got an update kind of from David Reddy himself about kind of where he's looking for us to be with the fees and stuff. Not any goals or numbers, but what he would like us to try and cover in our analysis. And they also decided at that meeting between finance and himself to take on the restructuring of fees for the rental of particular units or rooms in each of the community centers, that they're going to do that side of it so that we can focus on the programs. At the same time, we're still moving forward with some of that. Unfortunately, I had a weekend it was not going to work for me doing any kind of work because I had to fly to Texas. So we should have an update to where we want to be with fees so the three of us can finalize to be able to present to everybody at the next meeting.
I would think our next meeting, we will try to have a very light agenda with the exception of fees, because it will be a relatively lengthy conversation. It'll be really important for everybody to, be there for it and deal with it. Thank you very much for that update. I do have to talk to you and Commissioner Armstrong after the meeting. This Thursday's meeting isn't going to work for me. The Thursday dates I'm starting to have a problem with all of a sudden. So if we can come up with something between the three of us, that'd be helpful. The next item on the agenda is to appoint 2 members of the commission to serve on the Downtown Park Ad Hoc Committee. Things are starting to move forward. And my understanding is the Arts Commission and Parks and Recs have been asked to bring forth 2 members to serve on that committee. And I would like to appoint myself to attend and Commissioner Bowley. Does that work for you, Commissioner Bowley?
Fine.
I appreciate it. I don't have any information on when the meetings will be held yet, and I know that you've got a few things that you're working on, but this is the opportunity to get into the ground level, or maybe sort of on the 3rd floor. The ground level probably started 2.5 years ago, but it is good for us to have this opportunity, and I appreciate that. So that is done. Item number 4 that we have is the discussion of commissioners participating in the Black History Parade, and I guess that's mine. What I'd like to do is by hand count who is going to be able to ride in the parade. I'm not able to find that Jeep that I swore had stadium seating on the back of it that was used for. So as I've talked to Dixie, who is working on the parade, she said we get vehicles from Jessup, I believe, and yeah, we'll deal with it, vehicles. But I will need a hand count of who's going to be able to ride in the parade so that we get the right number of vehicles. So,
Date? What's the date?
It's February 24th, and I'll be working the parade, and I'm on the Black History Committee, so I won't be riding. I can just watch you all go. The parade starts at 11, and check-in is at 10.
Commissioner Armstrong? Oh, great. Commissioner Pace? Commissioner Bowley? And I will check with Commissioner Davis and Commissioner Craig. I just want to say Craig is his first name, and to see if they're available, but I really appreciate all of you doing this. I hope this is the last parade of season, as Jasmine pointed out today, and September would start the next series of parades, but I hope that we as a commission consider riding in the parades going forward, because I think having our, the people who are in the public that we're working with see that we are actually a group of people who are working to improve our parks and work with our activities is a remarkable thing. So I'd appreciate that.
Do we have anything in our budget, Vicki, like where we could maybe to decorate the float or the car, or just a banner maybe with?
Normally what we'll do, it's kind of like what we do with all the other dignitaries. We'll have a placard made that would go on the side of the car. We could put Parks and Recreation Commissioners, if we know which ones are in a car, we could actually maybe put the commissioners' names on it. Like we do for City Council, it'll have, council member Coors and maybe another commissioners with him or him and his partner or whatever the case may be. So we can have placards made, that magnetics that go onto the side of the vehicles. But we do have about $1,000 budget for commission activities, so.
And I was hoping that if we could ride 2 to a car, try to do it that way so that we keep the cars reasonable. I don't know how, they just bring you 1,000 cars, or how does that work?
We come to your house and steal them. No, we ask, once we know how many people we need cars for, then we solicit the dealerships to see. And last year we had to go to 2 different dealerships, but to get them to donate cars for us to ride in. So we have to just submit I could do it. Just tell me how many people total, and I'll submit that the Parks and Recs Commission will be in the parade, and then that'll add to our list of who we need, our dignitaries that we need to get cars for.
I'll cover that as soon as I get information from Commissioner Davis and Commissioner.
Perfect.
Just
So just from a cost savings, I'm really good if it's just a sign, Vicki, on the side without commissioners' names, so it can be reused.
Okay.
I think that's a great idea. If as long as it indicates Parks and Recs commissioners, then it could be reused later on.
And a secondary note on that too, I don't mind walking, so if we can't get enough cars, it's not that far.
Yeah.
We could most likely get at least 3 in a car, 2 in the back, 1 in the front. Do they require to use their driver? We could have a driver, we could get 4 in a car if we drove.
If you wanted to drive, that might be great. Because we're usually stretching to get enough people to drive. So that's another, I'll have that conversation with the committee. I have a meeting tomorrow night, so I'll talk to them.
No problem at all driving her. Keep that in
It
mind.
looks better than 7 people walking.
Yes.
Yeah.
And no lead foot, please.
And we could get you a sign that we could get 2 kids to hold and walk in front of you with.
Great. So moving on to reports and requests. Commissioner comments. I just want to make sure that we go around and everybody has an opportunity to say yay or nay with any comments that they have going forward. So Commissioner Boley,
I don't have anything more to add today.
Commissioner Pace,
Covered everything.
Commissioner Armstrong.
I have a couple things. One about the dog park. There was a new sign put up asking owners not to let their dogs dig, which is fine, but the sign is on the fence. And I think it's important to remember the fence was paid for by $100,000 of public art money. And, you know, we have worked to have a lot of the signage removed from the fence, especially some small dog park, there were signs on there. And so there's this big sign on there, and I don't know if there's any way that that could be removed, because it really does wreck the sightlines of the art. And I'm not sure exactly why the sign is that big anyway, because it's massive. So I think it's important to remember, you know, this is a piece of art, and we need to think about, you know, when we're putting things on it. It was a big investment by the city. Other thing I want to talk about is the fellow with pickleball mentioned all these tournaments and are coming up. And, you know, this weekend my 14-year-old niece was in town for a lacrosse tournament at the Polo Grounds, and there was thousands of young people there from all over the country. And where my brother stayed in the hotel next, were all booked by these parents and these teams. And it makes me wonder, all of our programs that we have, and we've been going over these fees, how much money they actually bring in to, I know you organize all these soccer events and everything. I mean, the economic impact to the city and the valley of these recreation programs for children alone must be really huge. And it would be really wonderful if there's some way we could, you know, estimate it or quantify it in some ways, especially when we're looking at the budgets and things like that, to say this isn't just the city spending money, it's actually bringing a lot of money back in, because it was amazing how much money was spent just in that one tournament that I went to this weekend.
Right. And you know, we can do that, because I always did that in the past for, especially when we hosted like the Senior Softball World Series and the ASA Nationals, because you're getting teams coming from all over the country. And I've got several events coming up starting the last weekend of January through the 11th of February, that probably close to 150 teams will be in town between seniors and young adults, and a fundraiser I do for age assistants playing softball. And it'll be, you know, coming from all over. I have teams coming from Wisconsin and Minnesota. I've got a team from New York, a lot of teams from Seattle, Northern California, Arizona. And the seniors are mostly Midwest. I got a couple of teams coming from Colorado for the seniors, but I'll probably average about 80 in the seniors division, another 60 plus for the young 18 and over young adults. So we can do a guesstimation of, based on CBB numbers of, you know, what they would normally pay on average for hotels, number of days they're staying here. You know, they have a formula for what they would spend, and we could put together a ballpark of what TOT and sales tax and all that is coming in on events like that.
Commissioner Navarro?
No.
Commissioner Goodman?
I have just a few. You know, I was wondering if it would be possible if we could put together a fast and furious, very short-term, like retreat ad hoc group. We did this last year, and I think there's a lot of ideas swirling around, and we have new people at the table. And if we could have myself and maybe 2 other people, one other person, just to really dive into what the agenda items, how the day will flow, what will it look like, and then we can bring it back to Vicki and last we can bring it back to you and get some, you know, kind of finalize it. And so that's what we did last year. That would be my request.
We have one?
Well, I'm looking at the form where someone handed out, and it says Chair Young, me, and Commissioner Goodman.
That answers the problem. I was getting I was thinking we can't go back into and appoint at this point in the meeting, but appointing at the next meeting wouldn't work because
Yes, it's
it
Commissioner
happens
Creed.
right before.
Well, I
so-
think we either did it at the October or November meeting,
Okay.
because somebody got requested to ask me who was on what
Yeah,
Got
that's
it.
what
at our committee.
Thank
so-
you. Thank you very much. So.
And I clearly remembered being on that. Not.
Okay, okay, that's number one. Let's see, number two. I had a question about pickleball, and I thought it was really interesting. You know, I love the Valley, and I love that all this is going on, the pickleball comments earlier. I love that's going on in our entire Valley. And I don't feel Palm Springs has to lead. And, you know, in the Valley, if there are other cities that are actually more equipped as far as space and funds to maybe lead in pickleball. So that was like really interesting to hear what the Tennis Gardens was doing and La Quinta was doing. And I thought that was great. I'm not up to date and don't know how to be up to date. So I'm just curious if the pickleball group, our ad hoc group, is on a mailing list or an email list or gets anything, because otherwise we're just waiting once a month to hear the same, we're hearing different information from the same person. And it might be helpful if we understand what's going on in the whole valley. So that was a comment. And, on February 4th, I am presenting the summer camp banner to the Old Las Palmas Neighborhood Association, who actually awarded the summer camp grant. And so that'll happen in February. It's a wonderful banner that Vicki had her team and the kids sign. So we'll be presenting that on February 4th.
Where?
It's at a home in Old Las Palmas. And anyone who's interested in going with me, I will send the address. Great, thank you.
Anything else, Commissioner Goodman? Commissioner Diaz?
I just wanted to bring up a topic. I was helping with the Fine Arts Committee, is that what it's called? Commission? Arts Commission, with Martin Luther King art contest, and we had a big, beautiful, beautiful ceremony, and I'm on that planning committee, and anyway, that was on Sunday. But during that session, when we were in here, we were judging works, there was a lady from the Arts Commission named Tracy, and she also is part of the Desert Horticulture Group. And she said that there was questions being raised at that meeting about the wellness park. And the questions stem around the plants that are growing in there and the comments, and I'm not familiar, I haven't been around long enough to know, but that the plants that they had originally put into that park, it looks like, she said that it looks as though people have just kind of dropped other plants in there that maybe we haven't approved. I don't know whether that's true or not. It was just something for me to bring to you guys to address, and also that the Desert Horticulture Group would be interested and happy and willing to do more planting in that wellness park. So I thought I'd just bring it to the commission.
Thank you. I actually received an email from Commissioner Middleton introducing me to Tracy. Okay. It didn't. You've given much more information about what the concerns are. A concern that I had was that we had talked about milkweed being planted in parts of the park.
And that was on the monarch butterfly
Right.
comment.
However, I've gone through and was pulling together my list because I kind of babysit that park. And I was offended by the lack of plantings. And Tuesday of this week, all these little plants appeared everywhere except in the fragrance garden. And it was one of my comments that I wanted to make, is that several plants have been dropped in. It's really interesting because they're very, very tiny. And they look
Like seedlings or something.
Yeah, they're a little bit bigger than seedlings, but they're pretty small. But I think part of it is the type of plant that they are is the plant that gets that 3-story tall shoot that dies at the end of that.
After
that
it's
shoot
grown,
dies.
then it dies.
So they brought in something that's smaller, but my concern was didn't seem sort of artistically done or well done. So I did want to make a comment that there is no buttermilk or milkweed going there, and the fragrance area looks like people have actually just taken plants out, because the signs are still there, and I look and think, there is no plant there. So
You
there
okay?
are a lot of plants missing. Which leads me to the sort of the second comment that I had asked for, was I was wondering if we could invite Stacy Schaefer to our next meeting so that we could all report on any park walking that we've done. And I keep an eye on Ruth Hardy and sort of Victoria. But if we could start to talk about it, this would be in the onset of thinking about the NUSA conference that we've won in 2019, because it'll take us a year or two to get plants matured and stuff. So if we could do that at our next meeting and include Stacy or her designee, but somebody who could listen to our reaction to what we're seeing in the parks.
And just a comment on what both you and Commissioner Diaz has said, there is an ongoing issue with someone going into the wellness park and taking those plants. Stacy's crew is going in there monthly and replacing them. They're spending $200 to $300 a month replacing plants and at one time there were some big plants in there and off they went, especially in the fragrance garden and the municipal area. It is an issue that we're aware of, and Stacy's crew is working on that. So it's ongoing. But I thought in the meeting that we had with Dr. Reddy last week that she stated that they weren't putting little plants in, they were putting bigger plants in. So I'll make a comment.
Yeah.
Let her know about the size of the plants that you're seeing in there, and not what she had mentioned at a meeting previously.
And again, they're not this big, but they are just about that big. And it's sort of like, I almost thought, well, is that a weed or something? And then I realized, oh, it's actually a planting. But I guess one of the concerns there too is that I wonder sometimes replacing a plant by maintenance and gardening works pretty well, but when you're starting to look at sort of visually structuring things, I don't know, that's not a Parks and Recreation thing, but it's sure, I'd like to raise the bar on how it artistically gets done, because and I'm not sure how we do that, yeah.
It's my understanding that she's got the planning plans, the plot plans, to know exactly what plants were in each of those areas, and they were replacing like for like.
Okay.
But
And
again,
Who is that you're referring to?
Stacy Schaefer, she's Director of Facilities and Maintenance. Her staff
Oh, okay.
is replacing those plants.
Gotcha.
So,
The other thing about the wellness park that is slightly different than any of the other parks we have is I don't know that we, the city, have full say on what happens there, since it was originally designed by the hospital. And I don't know if Stacy has to work with them for changes other than straightforward putting in the same kind of plant or not.
well, that was one of the things that we had talked at our meeting last week, was looking at what is in the MOU. The land belongs to the healthcare district. It originally was part of Catherine Finchie's elementary school. When they rebuilt the school, it shifted and it left that plot of land. With the help of the Desert Water Agency, the city, with architects and the plans, built the wellness park, and obviously some funding from the healthcare district. We have an MOU that the city will maintain that facility through our landscape contractor. There was a period of time when, we had the turn in our economy, that actual healthcare district paid for our landscape contractor to maintain it for 2 years. Then it came back to the city. And that's one of the things that we're reviewing right now. What's in the existing MOU that, what's supposed to be where, who's supposed to be doing what, and, trying to, so everyone's on the same page and the park's looking in the condition it should be. And, everyone has a different standard. What is the standard that we need to set? And hopefully that's a much higher standard than most people have, so.
Down just two things. One being, I would like to solicit opinions from the commissioners on having a high school member as a junior commissioner. I've noticed that some of the other commissions have a high school person in, and frankly, this is about parks and recreation, and they seem like it would be very helpful. Yeah, I just like, and hopefully. But so I would like to ask that that be put on the agenda to determine how do we move forward with that, and then we can weigh in for all of the commissioners. I don't know if it's something that, as the chair, I can call for, or we can take a vote on if it's on the agenda, or.
But I think it would depend on if they're just serving in a capacity for as an advisor of what as a youth they would like to see happening in the city of Palm Springs. Obviously, if it's someone you're looking for to be increase our number, that's a council item that would need to move forward of increasing the size of our commission to add another body to it.
We did discuss actually reaching out to students and young people in our survey about the use of parks. And so I don't know, I think that's a good question of what capacity. But for me, I would want it to be more than just a figurehead.
Right, and I know that they, Human Rights Commission has
Has-
high school students
right.
on it. I think just to voice
Correct.
from their viewpoint things, not necessarily to
A
make
voting member.
decisions, yeah.
I sit on the police advisory board, and we have a high school student who is a full-fledged member. She reports just like every other person does from our community. She reports, she does a very good job. We have amazing kids in our schools, and I just think we could learn from them. So if we could, I can speak to city council, at least our representative once named, and see if we can get it started, but I would just ask for your thought and support on it. So if we can put it on the next agenda, we could talk about it. My last item, I was approached by a dog walker who had their dog on a leash that said, at Ruth Hardy Park, there are insufficient signs pointing people to walk their dogs on leash. It's one of the parks that does have off-leash people all over the place, and that in Victoria. And I realize we can't have signs every 10 feet, but I would like to ask that we get this on the commission at some point in time, and maybe the retreat, to determine what is the appropriate number of signs and placement, because not everybody drives into the park. And not everybody walks into that one spot. But it has been brought to my attention from somebody who I have seen in all but knockdown, drag-out fights with people when their dogs were off leash. And it is a serious concern. So I will just ask that be done, and that's all I have.
Respond to that, though, because, I think, the dog park is a great example. We have this willy-nilly policy of putting signs up everywhere. I could come up with 10 other things, I think, at Ruth Hardy or Wellness Center that I need to sign for. So if we're going to have that discussion, I wish we'd talk about our sign policy rather than somebody coming and saying, I want to sign for this or that, because at the dog park, it's just out of control. And we could put signs up all over the parks for all sorts of things. So I'd rather not look at it as one issue that somebody brings up, but actually how we're approaching our signage in general. People, we're not supposed to smoke in the parks either, but people are smoking in the parks, so we put up signs every 25 feet for that. So I think it's a valid concern, but I think it's a bigger issue than just that.
I'm not sure, is that a Parks and Rec? Well, these are probably conversations we should not be having at this point in time. Let's put it on the agenda, and we can open it up to broader.
Well, it is,
things.
and it was an issue that I know when probably a couple of years ago they were addressing the sign issue. If you go at Ruth Hardy Park on the bathroom building, there's a master sign of what the rules are based on city ordinance, and it talks about boats and lakes or something of that nature. And at the time when Scott Meredith was on the commission, he was saying, we don't have anywhere to put boats in the parks and stuff. So they were starting to look at what the rules were. And if you go to, I think Demuth Park has the same set of rules, but it's specifically what is in our ordinance that talks about the rules and regulations in parks. So, and Commissioner Armstrong makes a good point. How many signs? We have no smoking. There's no dogs allowed. There's no drinking. So how many signs do we put in our parks? And no matter where you put a sign, someone's going to say, I didn't see the sign.
The account of the signs that exist and what, because if there are 3 signs at Ruth Hardy Park and 3 signs at Victoria Park, slightly different approach, drive in and approach that. I think it'd be a great thing to put it on the agenda and look at what the city's, stance is on that.
Right, so I think that would be just that simple, just let's find out what the city policy is first and have a conversation around that.
The fact that we're going to be doing the fees at our next meeting, which will probably take up a good portion of that meeting, maybe we could shoot that for March, and maybe just have the youth appointment, discussion on youth appointment to the commission, and then the recreation program fees recommendations.
Perfect. Any staff updates?
I have none today, thank you.
Commissioner Goodman?
Oh, I do take that back. The pool is ready to go, knock on wood. We will be opening tomorrow morning at 5:30, so if you're inclined to want to wake up early and come join those lap swimmers that are eager to get back to the pool, we got the green light from the health department today that everything went well based on what the contractor did, and we're ready to reopen, so.
Is there a ribbon cutting?
5:30 in the morning, we could arrange that if you'd like. I'm sure that my 2 guards there would be more than happy to let you cut a ribbon.
Thank you.
I just wanted to
Commissioner
add
Mendes.
something to comments. The dog park group, our ad hoc committee did meet, and actually I think we had a really very rich and colorful conversation. Vicki, thank you so much for the maps that you sent us. And it just dawned on me that our retreat will actually be prior to our next, to the board for the March meeting. So if in February we do program fees and we do a youth commissioner, then March would be everything else, and we would be dealing with some of this at the retreat. But I'm sure all the other, I'm sure pickleball and others have information to report. So I don't know how we might want to deal with communicating that, and so that's one.
Well, and that is a public meeting. It's posted, the retreat is posted.
Yes, it would be
So
posted, 'cause
we are able to discuss anything that we would during a regular
Well-
meeting, can't we?
Now, in the retreat, we're focused to what we have set on the agenda. It's specific, just like having a special meeting. We're having a special meeting to,
I mean, I don't want to go 2 or 3 months without dog park and pickleball and really not being able to share out. So we'll look at it for retreat information and agenda items so that we can dive a little deeper. Because I think that we got something done and there's more to do for dog park, at least. And then for pickleball, I just happened to swing by Demuth Park and spend some time at the courts and snap some photographs. And I'm always overwhelmed when I hear 60 people, and I'm also really clear it's 60 people for 2 hours. And so I think those are really worthy conversations to have.
Commissioner Pace.
If it's okay with everyone, since fees is going to take a big section of it, I will also send out everything that we have from our meeting ahead of time so that people can review it and then bring their questions, so that it will try and speed it up if we want to try to include more on that agenda
For February?
for February.
Well, and that's a good idea. Maybe what we could do is drop 2 items on that we'll all agree are, toward the end of the meeting. And if our meeting is running long, we won't get to those items. We would get them but we would also keep them on the retreat.
Well, and I think it's really just an update. And so I don't want it to get lost. And so if we did those 2 items, the pickleball and dog park, just strictly as an update, and then in the retreat, we can dive a little deeper, I think that would be nice.
That's workable.
these can do that. If they feel they're ready to do an update, just let me know. It can be honored as an update just to receive and file that.
So can you
This is
put
what we've
dog
met,
park
this is what we've
on,
discussed.
on February just as an update?
Okay.
Thanks.
So we are adjourning, and our next meeting will be on February 20th at 2:30 p.m. here in the large conference room. So adjourned.